So welcome back, everyone. We only have 3 to go and only 2 are here, but that doesn't matter. We'll get cracking. Is Grant here, please?
Yep. Afternoon all.
Greetings.
Right, so I've read the business case and the consultation document and viewed the recordings of the 2 council sessions that discuss the business case. I do not agree with the recommendations that the in-house delivery model is the best solution and believe that a water service, the CCO, whether 2 waters or 3 waters, would provide a better solution for the customers of Christchurch City Council. To me, one of the key failings is that the business case primarily focuses on 2 points, which is governance and finance, without looking at the benefits within a business model that focuses on making improvements, efficiencies and savings for providing the 3 water services to ratepayers, something likely to be required by the Commerce Commission in the near future. Through the LTP process, Council develops asset management plans, and each AMP has an improvement item section. The last 2 AMP cycles have not provided any additional OPEX to the 3 waters business to meet the improvements items requested, things like asset assessments, operational improvements and smarter processes. These improvements are essential if Council wants to provide a better water service to our customers. There is nothing in the business unit that indicates any business improvements have been considered. The financial modelling states that all 3 business units will essentially meet the requirements of financial stability within the 10-year forecast period asked by the DIA. The difference is therefore raised in the initial setup costs, which is stated to favour the current model because the systems are already in place. However, it does not state what, if any, allowances have been made for the costs of the service level agreements required as part of the financial separation, and there'll be a lot of them. Conversely, it also does not state whether the benefits of leveraging the massive investment by the Labour government into setting up the water services entities were looked into to reduce the setup costs of a CCO, only commenting on the cost of setting up a board. The processes previously developed would provide a big leap forward for 3 waters asset management maturity and an ability to make rapid digital advances. If we don't take the opportunity to look into what can be leveraged from the work done under the water reform process, even for an in-house model, it would be a substantial oversight. During the presentation of the business case to Council, there were comments made against setting up a CCO for fear of turning into Wellington Water, which nobody wants. This is a flawed comparison as Wellington Water is a non-asset owning entity, so they have no mechanism for raising their own funding, therefore needing the Wellington councils to provide the CAPEX and OPEX requested. And if the funding is not approved, as has been the case, Wellington Water then must manage the required workload with funding shortfalls along with the associated residual risks and the resulting reputational damage. With an in-house business unit, my concern is how will Christchurch City Council avoid this from occurring if the 3 waters unit asks for funding envelopes that conflicts with the contentious political issue of rates increases. The business case states that the governance structure that currently exists is the best way to manage 3 waters. I do not agree with this, and hopefully it's not career limiting. My reasons are 3-year political cycles may lead to a lack of long-term consistency with direction of the 3 waters business. Political influence can distort prioritisation and funding decisions. Council reluctance to agree to additional OPEX for improvements due to the increase in rates. Councillors are not legally or financially accountable for decisions, unlike a CCO board. Councillors may not have the technical expertise needed to oversee a multifaceted business like 3 waters as compared to a dedicated CCO board. The current model also allows for political decisions to alter funding requests. For example, during the last LTP, 3 waters' capital budget was reduced between successive presentations to Council to meet caps. But then after this, Council's requested specific funding to be added. For example, modelled flood risk program funding of $180 million over 10 years and $30 million added for water main renewals for leakage mitigation, despite a proportion of leakage roughly 35% actually occurs at private properties. In contrast, the CCO would need a solid business case to approve spending, as it would be open to external audits with the liability of action sitting with staff and ultimately to the board. My last point relates to the references in the business case that a water services CCO would not align with council's strategic priorities, even though these priorities can change every 3 years with a new council. While applicable to guide the wider council businesses, I don't believe that strategic priorities are necessary for a Three Waters unit where the priority must be public health. That is, provision of clean, safe drinking water, safe collection and treatment of wastewater, mitigation of the effects of urban development on our waterways, and mitigation of the effects of urban development on secondary flow paths. Other key priorities would include planning for adaptation to the effects of climate change and related infrastructure resilience. In short, I believe that the Three Waters business unit would be best run as a dedicated CCO. However, in whatever form it does take, I hope that it focuses on improving from its current ways of doing things to invest in its people and processes and leveraging the work undertaken by the previous government.
Good.
Thank you.
Yeah, well done, mate. Matt, got a few questions. Melanie?
Thanks, Grant. Did you ever? You've mentioned Three Waters, although your big paragraph at the start talks 2 or 3. Did you have a preference there?
I guess Two Waters would be a lot simpler. Three Waters, as many people have commented on, has got so many ties back with other relevant parts within council, whether it's parks, whether it's a lot of your planning functions. So Two Waters would definitely be easier, and it's the same way that Scottish Water went. I guess that's for you guys to decide.
Thank you. Tyler?
Kia ora, Grant. Thanks for coming in. Hey, I just have a question around, let's focus on the protection of the environment and the environmental outcomes that we're trying to look for. With any change of government, as we're seeing right now, that those could potentially be at risk, depending on what policies are at hand. And I guess the council layer is the one that sort of helps bolster that with whatever government comes in. Do you have a view on holding those CCOs to the same priorities that we have at council in comparison to what regulation is brought forward by central government?
Well, I guess the CCO would be, a lot of that would be dictated by whatever the Government and Commerce Commission require. So Te Maraerewa are the ones that are going to be the driving force, I believe, for a lot of what the CCOs or the local water dale units will end up doing. It's already put forward its water requirements, wastewater coming off the back of that, and they've already indicated that they'll be looking at stormwater as well.
Cool. I'm going to squeeze one in there. Phil's not locking. You brought up some really, really good points in your submission, and thank you for clarifying that Wellington water part. The next question is around the governance, and just in your view, and you may or may not be able to comment on this, but do you think that we could be doing better than what we're delivering at the moment, operational-wise? If not, do you think governance could be actually resourcing a bit more into operations to be able to deliver that?
Do you mean as a ratepayer?
Yes.
My comment
Yes,
as a ratepayer?
As a ratepayer. Please feel comfortable.
I'm sure
with
there's always improvements that could be made, but you'd need to discuss that probably with the relevant staff members to get an appreciation for that.
Yep, that's awesome. Thank you.
Samuel?
Hey, yeah, thank you for your presentation or your submission. I just had one question, which was around your comments around the governance structure. So I think you said something, which is it's all good, fair enough, around the technical ability of people governing an organisation. Just so I'm clear in my mind, with a CCO, is it your intent? Would your preference be that you just have engineers governing that?
No, hell no.
No.
Yeah. No, definitely not. I mean, you need a suite of people, and like a number of you guys are business minded, and that's what's needed as well. There needs to be a business focus. You need to still consider environment, but you need engineers in there as well to fully understand what's going on. You can't just rely. I mean, I'm assuming as a ratepayer, for you guys, you're relying a lot on what staff are providing you with. But in a CCO where you're a dedicated unit, then I would have expected that members of the board would also be professionals in an engineering field, at least some of them.
Right. Okay.
Probably not enough set up so it would sway a vote type thing, but
Yeah.
you'd
No,
need to
I was
have
just
that
trying to
in
understand that difference because we've seen it in the past, and I think it's one of the reasons we consulted on keeping it in-house was that sometimes when you remove things too far from the shareholder, that things go sort of horribly wrong, and it's just so in many respects the diversity around a table, regardless of whether it's a council or a board, diversity of thought kind of helps improve the decision making. And I was just trying to pick up on your comments in terms of whether we just want technical people or not. Yeah.
No, definitely not.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Cheers.
And lastly, Pauline.
Yeah, thank you, Grant. Yeah, because the thing is that an in-house model would end up being with a dedicated unit anyway, ring-fenced. So, and that would consist of all the expertise that you're speaking of there. And when you talk about, political interference, but there's also political access, if you like, with that model, that the ratepayer can actually speak to us about what they have concerns. And do you have any concern that perhaps it would be more difficult with a CCO, basically a private board?
Possibly, and I guess the CCO would be kind of driven to deliver certain things. But I guess there would still need to be a mechanism where ratepayers, whether they come to council to make, inquiries or submissions, and then council takes it to the CCO, there would need to be quite a good relationship between organisations to make sure these things flow properly.
Yeah, and that's true. And the other thing is with, you're concerned with, if it stayed in-house, the council's ability to actually deliver it to the standard required. But we've got Taumata Arawai and the Commerce Commission, and the government's charging us a couple of million a year to pay for the levy to make sure that the oversight is there. Does that not give you comfort with an in-house model that we would have to deliver it?
If you're looking at compliance, we're doing really well because we are driven by compliance, and a lot of our funding goes in towards compliance because no one wants to be prosecuted. It's all the other things that sit behind that would drive business improvements. As a ratepayer, I'm assuming aren't being done. So those are the improvements that I was referring to.
In order to get to the compliance, yeah.
It's not even compliance. It's business, how you run your business, make improvements, how you make operational improvements, how you use money wiser so you can make clear and transparent decision making, so that when asset management plans and activity plans come to you guys each time, that you can actually understand where the numbers are coming from. It's not just a pie chart on a page, and you don't know what's actually come through, and how can you trust the data, So it's understanding where all the information comes from, and the staff members for being able to leverage operational data. And as a ratepayer, I'm assuming this is what happens. Getting the operational information so you can make smarter decisions on your asset lives, to extend these kind of things, to make better use of the actual funding that's provided. And I would assume that's what the Commerce Commission are going to be looking for, that you're doing these smart things to make better use, so your rates increases aren't just keep going up.
Thank you. Good answer.
Yeah, we've really run out of time. What do you got here, Yanni? A biggie or a little one?
I mean, it's kind of a little one. I just wondered, like, if you read the asset management maturity assessment around Three Waters, there's a number of things in there that raise flags about how we're doing things. I'm just trying to understand whether, instead of looking at the structure, do you think there's other places that we could look, like the asset management maturity assessment, in terms of making those improvements in the short term?
Councillor, there's a report coming back in April from the asset management team on the asset management maturity assessment and progress with that, if that would help.
Yep, that'll sort that. Okay.
Yeah, Dave Griffiths' team bring it back.
Yep. Thank you, Brent. Thank you, Grant. Very good.
Thanks.
Thanks, buddy. Okay, young Terence.